Do I have time to ask this
go ahead,
question?
go ahead.
So, in the clip that we saw earlier, which shows Jesus speaking up for marginalized people, the poor, etc., which is the Jesus that we love. Not everyone interprets that message the same way these days. Religion in this country even seems weaponized at times. As a man of deep faith, which you obviously are, does that frustrate you at all?
Yeah.
If you were to have a cup of coffee with Jesus,
Yeah.
what's that one question you would ask?
Come on.
Jonathan Roumie is becoming quite the popular name. He's the star of hit series The Chosen, where he plays Jesus himself. It helps that he looks the part and is a public advocate of faith. In this video, we explore some of Jonathan's lesser-known interviews, analyzing what it means to believe in the power of Jesus while also being a superstar. We are Make Faith Famous, and let's get into it.
I struggle to follow Jesus like anybody else who considers themselves a Christian. But the struggle is part of it. And I think God knows what we struggle with, but we're still challenged to do what he would do in those situations. And I think because I actually believe that seems to have lent me a kind of credibility and an authenticity in approaching the character that maybe people haven't seen.
In this interview, Jonathan gets deep, personal, relatable about his faith and how he's a very human and very fallible person despite being so closely associated with Jesus. And actually, here's him exploring the same topic on the massive but often controversial show, The View. Let's take a look.
Hi, how are you? Hi, guys. Occasionally, the line seems a little blurred, so I try to gently just remind people that my name is Jonathan and not actually Jesus.
You can't hear their confession or anything.
I've had people try. I'm like, nope, save it for the priest. That's
Jonathan, you
the
can have
professional.
fun with that.
Then I got to answer for it later, so.
True.
Not to sound too negative, but behind all the glitz and glamour of that interview segment, there's actually something a bit sad. People thinking Jonathan is really Jesus, even trying to confess to him their sins. It's a twisted world we live in, and it's very easy to abuse that sort of power, but Jonathan seems like the type to direct others back to their church, their priest, or Christ. And here's another interview where he gets super honest about how God gave him a crazy dream that you won't believe, about this exact phenomenon. Come on, let's hear what happened.
And I had a dream that a pretty fantastic dream that I think in many ways was a prophetic dream in my late 20s, early 30s, where I was still living in New York at the time, and before I moved to LA, and LA was where I booked The Chosen. I had this dream that I was coming from, the dream was like I was coming back from work or from school at the time, because I went to school in the city when I lived at home, and I was on the train, and then I found myself, as we were pulling into my hometown station, I found myself kind of walking alongside the train as it's moving before it pulls into the station. And I was effectively, it's elevated like 2 stories up, so I was effectively just walking on air alongside this train as it's moving, and people on the train were like looking out, and their eyes got really big, and they were just a little shocked to see a man walking alongside the train. And then I found myself inside the train, and I'm walking through the center corridor, the aisle, and people started dropping on their knees and praying to me as if I was Jesus. And I said, no, I'm not Jesus. I'm not Jesus.
Did you have a beard and long hair at the time?
No.
Okay, so it's not like people were telling you look a lot like Jesus.
No, not even that. I did when I was in college, but at this point I had short hair and was clean shaven. And so I'm like, what is going on? And I said, I'm not Jesus. I'm just a dude. And then, fast forward like 15 years later, I get cast as Jesus, and I'm saying these words to people. I'm like, I can't heal you. I'll pray for you, but I can't heal you from the thing you're suffering from. And
Can you believe that? Praise God, right? In this next clip, Jonathan talks clearly about how absolutely positively integral his faith is to his role.
How important of a role does your faith play
in this kind of person. It sounds like you really do lean on your faith in order to get it right.
It's the epicenter of the creation of this character for me. I couldn't do this without that. I mean, I could go through the motions as an actor, but I don't think I would have got cast if I wasn't convicted in my beliefs.
So at the beginning of this video, we teased you with 2 clips, one from The View, where he answers Joy Behar and things get a little tense, and another of an emotional moment where Jonathan answers what one question he would ask Jesus if they could have coffee together. And before we get into that, I just want to say a real quick thanks so much for being here with us on Make Faith Famous. And if you want this video to reach around the world, please consider sharing it on social media, email, WhatsApp, whatever you got. And also, hey, maybe throw us a comment below letting us know if you liked the video, and maybe even tell us what part of the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to know how far this video reaches. All right, enough from me, right? Let's get back to Roumie. You are definitely not going to want to miss this clip.
Do I have time to ask this question?
Go ahead.
So, in the clip that we saw earlier, which shows Jesus speaking up for marginalized people, the poor, etc., which is the Jesus that we love. Not everyone interprets that message the same way these days. Religion in this country even seems weaponized at times. As a man of deep faith, which you obviously are, does that frustrate you at all?
You know, in that clip, we see Jesus basically taking to task the Pharisees that have essentially perverted the law or taken the faith and made it about the specificity in the letters of the law versus the heart of the law versus the community. You know, they were taking great pains to follow the law at the expense of the followers. And there was injustice in that. And, you know, anytime you see injustice taking place, Jesus is not going to be happy about that. And so I think the fact that we see him speaking his mind about it, I think he gave us a really tough example to follow, you know?
All right, that was great, and I like how he expertly dismantles a very pointed question from the host there and uses it as an opportunity to share what Jesus is truly all about. So now what's up with that coffee with Jesus thing? Let's find out.
If you were to have a cup of coffee with Jesus, what's that one question you would ask?
How did I do?
Wow.
Did I get it close?
Wow. That's good. That's really good. Now, some of the... You got me.
Yeah, me too. It's a good question.
I don't even want to say anything. What more is there to say? Here's the next one.
But I think with a character like Jesus, I think a lot of people do sort of reduce him to a really great teacher, cool guy, you know, shared a lot. He becomes a sandaled hippie in a lot of, you know, people's minds. They're like, oh, you know, he said some cool stuff and he did some cool things. And it's like, well, I think he was a little more than that.
Are there prayers or resources, maybe a book that you would recommend?
I don't know that I could pick one in particular. I would say start with the Bible, start with the Word, you know?
Yeah.
I just think some of the allure of Jonathan is how unashamed he is to point people towards the real Jesus. He's clearly a deep thinker and reader of the Bible. And I know some people might take issue with his ties to Catholicism specifically, but you can't deny that Jonathan's doing some great evangelistic work in these interviews. From small interviews to the big stage, he's got a ton to say about faith and Christ.
Whenever we put our eyes on ourselves, that's when we lose sight of everything. So when we keep our eyes focused on Jesus is when things get clearer. And so I started to pray, and I also knew, as I said, I had an ally with me in the room just above, and turns out he was praying a rosary for me at that time that I was going through that. And about 15 minutes later, it subsided, and I went upstairs, and he's like, oh, I just finished praying a rosary for you. I said, okay, well, another reason to pray the rosary, as if I needed another one. And I thought about what what it was that maybe was stressing me or giving me anxiety about these scenes, about the weight of portraying one of the most important scenes, certainly the most important scene in our faith. Well, I'll leave Bishop Barron to argue which might have been theologically more important, you know, the Eucharist or the resurrection. I don't know. I'm going to stay out of it. I'm not a theologian. I'm not actual Jesus. I kind of have to remind people I'm not actual Jesus. I don't know the answer. I'm pretending to be Jesus on a TV show. Let's just, for all 60,000 of you, so that's clear. Not the real Jesus. TV Jesus, real Jesus. TV Jesus, real Jesus.
And that's just such a wholesome clip and really shows you his frame of mind and his relationship with the role and his responsibility of this portrayal. Again, if you're still here, thanks for being here. Make sure to throw us some love in the comment section and support us as we are on this mission to make faith not some weird little thing that weird little people do in the shadows, but make it something bold and loud and proud and interesting, especially for our kids and families out there. All right, now let's hear some of Jonathan's actual testimony as we finish up this video. It's a really interesting story, and it's so genuine and uplifting, and we hope it serves as a little treat for those of you out there still with us.
The decision was made that you were going to do The Chosen. Before that, maybe scuffling is too strong of a word, but you were just sort of a jobbing actor.
Struggle busing.
Struggle busing. How does it happen that a struggle busing actor makes it big playing Jesus?
7 years ago, before you got cast in this role, that you were having such a tough time until you fully surrendered to the Lord. Can you share with us that story, and how has your life changed so far since portraying Jesus here in The Chosen?
I think that the path to that is absolute and uncompromising surrendering to a higher power, things that are beyond my control. Because that's what it took, I believe, for me to get to the place where I was ready for an opportunity like this. I had moved to LA, and then I struggled for 8 years in Los Angeles.
Yeah, so I was living in Los Angeles for about 8 years and pursuing acting full time. I had done 10 years prior to that in the production side of things, sort of behind the camera. And I felt God calling me to kind of go out to California and see if this was something that was meant to actually happen for me, and to give it my best shot. And I did, and struggled for 8 years.
I was trying so hard to control my life, to control my destiny, to do the things that I thought needed to be done to have a successful career as an actor. And they weren't working. I was on government assistance. That ran out. I woke up completely broke one morning.
I had a few little jobs here and there, but nothing substantive to the point where I got to this I arrived at this moment in my life where I was completely broke. I was out of food.
I woke up completely broke one morning 6.5 years ago. And I was literally it was just, I didn't see any way out that I could figure out how to make work. And so I literally said, God, you take this from me. It's in your hands now.
And the only thing that I knew that I hadn't tried at that point was really to just surrender my career and my life really to God in a way that I hadn't done before. Even as a Christian, as a Catholic Christian, I'd always had faith, but I never quite offered up my career in the way that I realized that I had to in that moment.
And for me, it was in a moment of severe stress and anxiety and, borderline fiscal destitution that I basically said, I can't do it on my own. I recognize I've been trying to do everything that I thought I was supposed to do, but it hasn't worked. And what I realized is that I've never checked in and thought whether or not this particular action was the right move, or
or that was what God might want for my life. So now it was essentially a prayer where I say, I want whatever you want from me because you know better than I do what's good for me. So whatever that is, show me what it is.
And when I did, that very day, I experienced a financial miracle that just didn't really make sense on paper, but I knew it was a sign from the Lord that that was what he was waiting for, was for me to just, submit and just hand everything over to him.
And I was relieved because I really felt now it wasn't my choice. And then 3 months later, The Chosen comes along. And I thought, okay, I just needed to submit.